As the weather heats up, more and more people will be out on the greenway trails across East Tennessee. But on Sunday, a woman was assaulted on a trail in South Knoxville. Police say that she did everything right to protect herself, but she was hurt. Reporter Grant Robinson spoke with experts who say being prepared is the first step in defending yourself.
Brandon, Michelle Kirk specializes in teaching women and children basic self-defense. She says something everyone can do is to have a blueprint for what to do in case of an attack.
As spring heats up and people head outside, it's important to stay safe. Leaders say the foundation of safety is situational awareness.
Just simply being aware and paying attention to what is around us and projecting confidence can reduce the likelihood that something's going to happen.
Playing music through phone speakers instead of headphones is one easy way to stay a little bit more aware. But Michelle Kirk says if you are assaulted, you should draw attention to yourself. You can do that using a personal alarm. They only cost around $15, and some of them sound a 120 decibel alarm with just the pull of a pin.
We said attract attention. It's just really loud. Now everybody's looking to see what's going on, especially good for someone that might have a soft voice.
Another tip, try to create a barrier between you and the attacker. That could mean using a bike or a backpack.
Any little thing that makes it harder for someone to get to us can be helpful.
When Kirk teaches women sexual assault prevention, she instructs them to get on the ground and use their legs to keep the attacker at bay.
Now all of a sudden I've got all of his weakest targets here and face, but he can't touch me.
Simply knowing all the right moves isn't enough if you can't use them in a crisis. These steps should be second nature, because when push comes to shove, every second counts.
Create a blueprint. That way you know when something happens what to do without having to think about it.
Knoxville police say assaults on greenway trails are very rare, and if you are in a situation that feels uncomfortable, you should trust your instincts. Brandon?
All right, Grant, great advice. Thank you very much.